President Kiir contributes over 700,000 South Sudanese pounds to employees of Juba Teaching Hospital. SPLM Youth League rally for peace in the country. And Central Bank transfer its money from Malakal branch to Juba. Hello and welcome to South Sudan Television. Wherever you have tuned in, we are coming to you live from Juba with the latest news from around the country. My name is Greng John. First, we would like to apologize for the slight delay due to technical error within the studio. Well, rebel leader Riek Machar is likely to battle it out alone as the 7 suspected coup plotters who were bailed out by the Kenyan government declined to join his group as talks continue in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa. The 7 released detainees made this remark in a news conference held in Addis Ababa on Thursday, saying they would have a separate dialogue under IGAD mediation. Well, to get more on this story, our reporter in Addis Ababa, Oyet Patrick, join us on phone. Patrick, we heard that the released detainees who are bailed out by the Kenyan government are in Addis Ababa. What are they there for and what is their position so far?
Yes, Garang, the 7 coup suspects who were released on bail and handed over to Kenyan government are here in Addis Ababa. They arrived here in Ethiopia on Wednesday night and held a press conference on Thursday at 3:30 p.m. saying that they are in Ethiopia to participate in the talks as a third party, claiming they were invited by Intergovernmental Authority on Development and that they are not going to sit on the side of the rebels or the government. What role they will play as a third party in the talks is unclear. They said they were not involved in the armed resistance in any way, and they are here. We are waiting to see how they will participate in these talks.
After the opening ceremony of the second round of peace talks between the government and the Riek Machar rebel group, what are we expecting next, Oyet Patrick?
After the opening ceremony, we expect the two teams to be given agenda for this second phase of the talks, and the agenda has not yet been given, but the teams are moving out of Addis Ababa on Thursday, 13th February to Tremazin, a place said to be 2 hours drive away from the Ethiopian capital. And according to mediators, this is to avoid interference from the public, and the face-to-face talks will be held there.
Are there demands set forth by the two negotiating teams as they begin this round of peace talks under IGAD mediation?
The delegation from the government says it has come with open mind and no preconditions for the talks, but the rebel delegation had released a press statement saying they were abstaining from talks until Ugandan forces withdraw from South Sudan and remaining coup suspects who are still in jail are released. But that press statement did not mean anything because the rebel delegation attended the opening ceremony of the peace talks.
We got some information around here that rebel group were demanding for Ugandan troops to leave the country before talks. Is that demand likely to derail talks again, or is it just a rumor?
The demand from the rebels will not derail the talks because, first of all, the demand came from misinterpretation of the cessation of hostility agreement document. In the document, the agreement says the foreign forces and government forces shall withdraw from the theater of war, meaning withdrawing from front lines, but not out of South Sudan.
Briefly, Oyet, from your own opinion, is the environment conducive for peace talks to allow a possible deal that may end the ongoing political conflict in the country?
The environment is conducive. The government delegation arrived here on time, ready for talks. The dilly-dallying is from the side of the rebels releasing press statements and coming up with some preconditions. But all in all, the talks, in my opinion, will proceed. Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, is exerting a lot of efforts, and the international community is also exerting a lot of efforts through IGAD to ensure that the talks proceed. And I am positive that the talks will go on well.
Thank you, Oyet Patrick, reporting from there in Addis Ababa. We'll keep you updated as soon as we get the latest from that side. To continue with the rest of our news bulletin, The President of the Republic, General Salva Kiir Mayardit, met today at the State House in Juba with leaders from Greater Bor community in Juba, including members of Legislative Assembly and Council of States led by Honorable Deng Dao Deng. The Bor community reaffirmed their commitment and support to the legitimate President of the Republic, General Salva Kiir Mayardit. Bor community elders condemn undemocratic power transfer triggered by renegade Riek Machar and his group for using military option to ascend to power. Leandro Lotok has more on the story.
The President of the Republic, General Salva Kiir Mayardit, met today at the State House in Juba with leaders from Greater Bor community led by Honorable Deng Dao. The community reaffirmed commitment and support to the legitimate President of the Republic, General Salva Kiir Mayardit. The Bor community condemned undemocratic and unconstitutional procedures taken by renegade Riek Machar and his group of using military means to ascend to power. The community urged the state caretaker governor, General John Kong Nguyen, to move to the state so that life is rebuilt. In a statement to SSTV, Deng Dao said Bor town has been severely devastated by the rebels and appealed for an urgent humanitarian assistance to the population cut off in some counties of Greater Bor, and the community urges the governor to move to the state so that some developmental partners and humanitarian NGOs can have access to the state.
Well, South Sudan viewers, we came as members of the National Assembly and Council of State and the community leadership in Juba. About 17 of us came to meet His Excellency, the President of the Republic, on 3 items. Item number 1 is to reaffirm our commitment and support to him as a president, as elected democratic President of the Republic of South Sudan, and also to condemn the rebels and the undemocratic procedures of taking over the government. And the second is to reassure our governor, the governor of Jonglei State, General John Kong Nguyen, so that he can move quickly to Jonglei State and particularly to Bor, so that the life is rebuilt. And if he's in Bor, it will be easy for people to come back and for services and operation of the government to happen normally. So these are the 2 main issues that we have come to see the President, and we appreciate his stand, and he also encouraged the governor of Jonglei to move so that the reconstruction and the rebuilding of Jonglei, capital Bor, and other places that were destroyed is urgently done, and so that the humanitarian assistance reach to those counties that were cut off from the services. And also other issues like floods, like the issue of dikes. If the governor is in Jonglei, the NGOs, the development partners will move to the state. So we came as members of the National Assembly and as community leadership of the Greater Bor in Juba. And
President Kiir was also briefed by the Minister of Health, Dr. Riek Gai Kok, on the health situation in the country following the failed attempted coup. Dr. Gai assured in a statement that the health situation in the whole country is under full control and stable. The minister said a total of 95,000 children have been vaccinated against polio. Although South Sudan has been declared a polio-free country, some precautionary measures against the disease must be taken care of. For some reported cases in neighboring countries is alarming. He also said a campaign against cholera and meningitis is going on in the country.
We assured him that the health situation in the whole country is under full control and is stable. We gave him an overview of the vaccination that is taking place right now across the country. A total of 95,000 have been vaccinated against polio. Although South Sudan has been declared polio-free country, but since there are some reported cases in the neighboring countries, we have to take some precautionary measures against this disease. And then also against measles, we have vaccinated over 122,000 in the whole country. And campaign is on progress right now against cholera and against meningitis. We have vaccinated children in all the IDP camps, including those who are in the UNMIS compounds. And we are now sending some teams to Nimili to carry out vaccination against cholera.
President Kiir also met with the special envoy of Angolan President Dos Santos in his capacity as the chair of International Conference of the Great Lakes region, sent his special envoy to Juba to express a strong solidarity with the people and government of South Sudan. President Kiir briefed the delegation on the political strife that shook the country following the December failed coup attempt instigated by renegade Riek Machar and his group. The Angolan special envoy told reporters that his country will consider seeing how they can support South Sudan leadership in alleviating some of the sufferings of the population.
It was, I was sent by President Dos Santos. President Dos Santos is now the chairman of the Great Lakes region, and in that capacity he sent me here as his envoy of both of his envoy as President of Angola and of the Great Lakes region, to come and express his solidarity to His Excellency President Salva Kiir for the events that have taken place here in Sudan and for all the strife that the people are going through. During this visit, we've had the opportunity to listen to His Excellency President Salva Kiir on the events that took place since last December. And we were also able to express that President Dos Santos was interested in listening and eventually to see how well he can help the Sudanese people at this moment when they are going through this terrible strife which has affected many human lives. So eventually we will consider to see how we can give some support to alleviate some of the suffering that's going on in Sudan.
Residents of Unity State have started returning to the areas after security restored relative calm in the area. The state caretaker governor, Dr. Joseph Mointuel, disclosed this after meeting President Salva Kiir Mayardit in Juba. Dr. Mointuel said the returning citizens are in dire needs of humanitarian assistance, adding that public and private properties in the state were massively looted by Riek Machar rebel group.
Security issues across the state, as well as the humanitarian needs, because people have come back to the state, to Bentiu, to all counties' capitals, and they are in dire need of humanitarian assistance. The security is normal across the state, and we also discussed the losses that happen to public properties as well as private ones, because you might have seen the damage that happened to the public institutions and the private institutions, and even the banking. So our banking system in the state is not functioning now. Also, we'll be discussing this with the governor of Bos, so that it is important that we should have functioning banks at the state as we start the normal life.
It's time to recognize work well done. The President of the Republic, General Salva Kiir Mayardit, has donated some money to Juba Teaching Hospital as a token for appreciation to the employees at the National Hospital for the hard work and commitment as they deliver medical service to the people, especially at the time when the nation was battling Riek Machar rebellion, which erupted after a failed coup attempt last year. About 1,000 employees are set to benefit from the sum of 705,800 South Sudanese pounds donated by the President. As Eddie Stephen reported, the press secretary in the office of the President, Ateny Ateny, who handed over the contribution to the administration of the hospital, says the donation is part of the commitment pledged by General Kiir to improve medical service in the area.
Nothing lasts like parental love. The President of the Republic, General Salva Kiir Mayardit, as a father of the nation, has appreciated 1,000 employees working at Juba Teaching Hospital by donating 705,800 South Sudanese pounds as a token of appreciation for the work done when the nation was threatened by the failed coup attempt. The reward package was presented by the press secretary in the office of the president, Atenywe Kateny, and was received by the Director General of Juba Teaching Hospital, Dr. Wani Lolik. Speaking to SSTV, the press secretary, Atenywe Kateny, said the money is not part of the salary for the employees, but a token of appreciation for the work done.
And the money that are going to be paid out by the staff, I have come with my staff here. These are the accountant department staff. The president is actually, as far as Juba Teaching Hospital is concerned, there are 216 medical doctors that would be paid 1,200 each, regardless of their specialization, because this is a token from the president. Is not anything to do that can be regulated with the seniority and the less senior person. This is a token that is given to the children. The president sees you, medical doctor, as his children equally. So he has given you 1,200 each as a token. Is not a salary. And there are 541 nurses, of which also the president is paying them 600. Has given them 600 pounds as SP. And there are workers. Some of them are cleaners. Some of them are matron or what? You call them what? Messengers. Some of them are messengers, some of them are cleaners. So they are given 500 SSP each, and their total is 244. Hospitals will be dealt with accordingly. I wanted to thank, on behalf of the president, I want to thank the medical doctors. Their head here, this is the Dr. Wani.
To balance the equation, Ateny confirmed that the president will arrange the same rewards to other hospitals in due course. And the Director General of the hospital, Dr. Wani Lolik, on behalf of the entire staff, expressed gratitude to President Kiir for fulfilling his promise to improve health services in the country.
Today I'm glad that the president has actually fulfilled his promise, and he has offered what he has promised to the people and health workers of Juba Teaching Hospital. Grateful for it, Mr. President.
As a caring father, President Kiir has promised not to abandon the sons and daughters of this nation despite temptations of the rebellion led by Riek Machar. The president had earlier donated huge sum of money to the wounded soldiers at Juba Military Hospital as part of appreciation for defending the sovereignty of the Republic of South Sudan. For SSTV News in Juba, Eddie Stephen.
The ruling party in South Sudan, SPLM, is set to open a school for political science along Juba-Nimule Road. The party deputy chief, James Wani IGAD, who is the vice president of the republic, visited the construction site expected to offer strategic studies in political science and leadership discipline for the SPLM cadres. Rejoice Joe Samson has more on the story.
Vice President James Waniga paid an inspection visit to the School of Political Sciences located along Juba-Nimule Road under construction by the SPLM. Iga said the school would help in training SPLM cadres in the field of political sciences.
ونحن في SPLM نحن عاوزين نبدأ political school مدرسة سياسي ممكن نحن بيجيبوا طلبة هنا موظفين وزراء وسنو يعني كوادر كل بتاع حركة بيجيبوا هنا بدور تانين بيجاملوا هنا زمن قدر كده كان ده زمن قدر للتسلم للناس الكوميونيتي سو نحن كنا عاوزين كلام ده كله يتم صار النهارده عشان المدرسة دي يبدأ بسرعة.
Meanwhile, SPLM Secretary for Political Affairs and Mobilization Antipas Nyok said the institution will offer strategic studies in political science for the SPLM cadres. Nyok added that the party is working to build the capacity of its members in various fields.
عشان نجي نزور المحل ده عشان feasibility studies بتاع المحل ده يكون للدراسات الاستراتيجية لكوادر بتاعنا بتاع الحركة الشعبية في المستقبل بيكون short term programs بعد في المستقبل يكون عندنا مدرسة أساسية بتاع بناء بتاع الدولة عشان تبني الدولة لازم يكون عندك كوادر.
In a separate development, Vice President, who is also the chairman of the National Crisis Management Committee, James Waniga, was briefed on the security and humanitarian situation in Abyei area by Justice Deng Byong, who is also in charge of Abyei file. Speaking to SSTV shortly after the meeting, Deng Byong pointed out that the Meseria tribesmen who came to the area in search of pasture for their livestock are now causing insecurity.
The security situation generally, as everybody knows, this is a dry season, and there is a big influx of the Meseria nomads now in the area, coming, of course, for grazing and looking for water. The problem is bigger this year because, as you know, there is a crisis, general crisis in the country, and especially the influx on Abyei has mounted this year because those Meseria who used to go and to the unity areas, and because of the crisis now are unable to go there, and therefore they have come all into the Abyei box, and this create big problem to the population in Abyei, the Dinkas. So I briefed him about that, and of course there are some skirmishes here and there. There is a pressure. Meseria want to move southward and through the Dinka settlements, bypassing even a local buffer zone that was created last year by UNISFA, that is the United States forces in the area. And this is terrible. I had to brief him about that for the national government to know what is happening on the ground. The other issue of my briefing was the humanitarian situation. Of course, Abyei itself has been a humanitarian issue for all these years. Most of the people are internally displaced, and they don't live in their original villages, especially those from the northern parts of Abyei are now congested in the southern parts.
Byong called on the chairperson of the National Crisis Management Committee to extend humanitarian assistance to the displaced persons who fled Unity State for safety following the destruction by the rebels in the state. For SSTV News, I'm Rejoice Tio Samson.
The Speaker of the Council of States, Honorable Joseph Bolchan, discussed bilateral relations between Juba and Khartoum with the Sudanese Vice President Hassan Abdurrahman. Speaking to South Sudan Television, Speaker Bolchan said the government of Sudan has promised to support peaceful solution to the crisis in South Sudan. Jacqueline Pierino has more on the story.
The Speaker of the Council of States, Honorable Joseph Bolchan, discussed with the Sudanese Vice President Hassan Abdurrahman bilateral relations between Juba and Khartoum. Speaking to SSTV, Speaker Bolchan said Sudan government has explained its position on the current political crisis in South Sudan and promised to contribute for a peaceful solution to the crisis. Bolchan said Sudan is planning to coordinate with South Sudan in the opening of borders to ease flow of trade between Juba and Khartoum. And the Sudanese presidential assistant, Professor Ibrahim Gandour, reaffirms his country's support to achieve peace and stability in South Sudan. The confirmation was echoed during the meeting of Professor Gandour and the Speaker of the Council of States, Joseph Bolchan. Professor Gandour reiterated his government allegiance to the sovereign, legitimate government of South Sudan and rejected taking power by force. While the Speaker of the Council of States, Joseph Ball, said his visit to Khartoum was to promote bilateral relations between the two parliaments of Juba and Khartoum, as well as opening of borders between the two countries.
The visit has two objectives. One is to promote the bilateral relations between our two countries. The other objective is to also establish working relationship with the Council of State of Sudan and with the National Legislature of Sudan in general. We had we are going to ink tomorrow the Memorandum of Understanding between us and the Council of States of Sudan, in which explicitly we talk of how best can we exchange the experiences we have, our new experience and their old experience, and especially in the area of legislation and the oversight and representation, among other things. We also talk of the joint visits, exchange visits. Then we talk of, if possible, we can build up common positions in regional organizations in which we are members. So all in all, the visit our meeting with the Vice President was very fruitful. And then we talk about the borders, and we hope that the borders will be open temporarily just for emergency.
Jacqueline Perino, SSTV.
The Specialized Committee on Thursday reviewed the ministerial order given by the Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Dr. Martin Elia Lomoro, on the formation of the Specialized Committee headed by the Deputy Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Dr. Salwa Jibril Beriberi. The committee discussion was centered on the roles and responsibilities, functions of the national ministries, structures of the state ministries, independent commission, as well as national corporation. Jackie Daru has more on the story.
The Specialized Committee on Reforms on Thursday reviewed the ministerial order by the Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Dr. Martin Elia Lomoro, the formation of Specialized Committee headed by the Deputy Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Dr. Salwa Jibril Beriberi. The discussion centered on the roles, responsibilities, and functions of the national ministries, structures of the state ministries, independent commission, as well as the national corporations. In a media briefing, the Deputy Minister said their mandate was unfortunately interrupted by the aborted coup. Hence, the committee did not carry out their task as scheduled. The committee is expected to complete their work within this week so that it can be submitted to the Council of Ministers for approval.
This committee was formed through a ministerial order by Honorable Dr. Martin Elia Lomoro, the Minister of Cabinet Affairs. And the mandate of the Specialized Committee covers the roles, functions, and responsibilities of the national ministries and the functions and structures of the state ministries, plus the functions and mandates of independent commissions and national corporations. The committee has been meeting since November 2013 and continued at the level of the Committee of the Whole and subcommittees and working groups to cover all the areas of its mandate committee. So in the last couple of weeks, we have been diligently working across the mandate of the...
In another development, the Minister of Cabinet Affairs, Dr. Martin Elia Lomoro, met with the visiting senior advisor in the Swedish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Prelingate. The meeting discussed bilateral relations between Juba and Stockholm. They also touched on the ongoing talks in Addis Ababa and the humanitarian crisis in the country.
My name is Per Lingard. I'm a Swedish ambassador visiting South Sudan, and I have just had a meeting with the Minister for Cabinet Affairs, where we discussed bilateral issues as well as the humanitarian situation in Addis Ababa. Thank you.
The Swedish ambassador said his country supports the peaceful settlement for the political crisis in the country. Jackie Darrow, SSTV.
As the current talks in Addis Ababa continue with high expectation that it would produce a comprehensive political settlement to the crisis in the country, SPLM Youth League and the National Crisis Management Committee are busy mobilizing masses to embrace peace and unity. A peace campaign was held in Juba on Wednesday, where religious leaders invited government officials to brief them on the genesis of the current political stalemate. The party leaders are now calling on religious leaders to pray for peace and reconciliation in the country. Post Johnson Matur reports.
After the second round talk commenced in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia on Wednesday 11 this month between the government of the Republic of South Sudan and Riek Machar rebel team, the SPLM Youth League and the Crisis Management Committee launched a massive mobilization and awareness campaign, explained to the religious leaders and the peaceful the genesis of the current political crisis in the country. The deputy chairperson of Crisis Management Committee and the senior member of the SPLM Political Bureau, Honorable Daniel Awena Kot, said people of South Sudan should not choose wrong direction of road to hell, but they should choose a road which will lead them to a permanent peace and unity. Awed added that there are 7 points of bad or failure leadership: business without ethics, laughing with no good reason and vision, noise without characters, technology with no respect to human being and God's spirit, wealth without work, politics without principle, and believe in God with no good faith.
SPLM is still very strong. And what we only need is to understand ourselves and forge a real unity. And it has been real since that we succeeded to be independent and solve our problems. Even though they have gone out of our hands, it is because of action of violence. Otherwise, if other group has accepted to talk with us, we would have risen and we would have found a solution. And now we'll still find a solution since our people are ready. Addis Ababa, they will have sense.
Meanwhile, the SPLM Youth League chairperson, Honorable Paul Kodit, said South Sudan is one body, as Jesus said in the New Testament, quoting verses in the Bible. A call fell to the Christian and Muslim leaders to pray for the SPLM leadership, saying that this time is not time for war, it's time for development, peace, and unity.
بنقدر دور الكنيسة في المجتمع ودور الكنيسة في بنيان الدولة. نحن حاليا عندنا الأزمة اللي نحن فيه والأزمة السياسية جاء نتيجة للانقلاب الفاشلة، ولا بد من وجود ربنا في وسطنا. فلذلك الحركة الشعبية لتحرير السودان وتجمع شباب الحركة الشعبية لتحرير السودان أدينا دعوة لكل الشباب المسيحيين في كل الكنائس عشان نتفاخر معهم ونطلب منهم كمان صلواتهم وأمنياتهم لدولتنا ولحركة الشعبية عشان نقدر نبني أمة قوية.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Electricity, Dam and Water Resources, Jima Nunu Kumba, urges Christian and Muslim to pray for peace and unity among us Sudanese, adding that youth have a big role to play in embracing